In this video on stakeholder management best practice, Colin will provide key advice on how to use the stakeholder mapping process effectively.
Okay, so with the stakeholder management process, I mean, we looked at the map and the different categories. And there are a number of key things that I find come up time and time again when people get through this and start to use it, because it does take a while to get going. But some of the things are, for instance, the indirect routes. So looking at people on your map and thinking, okay, I need to influence that person, I need to move them from there to there. A key question to ask yourself is who influences them? And so you might want to bring some other people onto the map. And I think it's those indirect routes that are quite often the simple way of doing it. Another key thing is about being very tuned into what the small things are, or the small moves that you can make that will have a dramatic effect. And if you remember earlier on, I was talking about opinion formers, and some individuals have quite a voice in the community that you're seeking to influence. Maybe those are the people to target with your attention, okay? Because if you can get them converted, you can save an awful lot of time. You don't necessarily have to move forward on all of these people. But in terms of priorities, I mean, the best practice generally is, probably point number one is if you've got powerful people, influential people in the grey zone. Because it's better to have them out in the white space, even if they're on the negative side, because then at least you know what you're dealing with and can form strategies and plans or tactics on how to move them or to neutralise the damage that they could cause. And usually when I ask the question, which white space should you go to, most people focus on the enemies and the people that are against them and they haven't got a good relationship with. That's normal, that's human nature, but it's soul destroying as well, having to deal with them. And what I'm not saying is that you should ignore those people. What I'm saying is you should understand them such that you recognise the damage that they could cause to the progress towards your goal, and then start to work out how you might overcome that, or at least reduce the risk that they could derail you or get that. Where you really need to focus a lot of your time and attention is in the advocates box. Right, because those are the people who are already on side. And one little thing that you can try and do, or potentially go a little bit deeper in your analysis, is divide that advocate box into four. Right? Because some people will just be in the corner, in the centre of the diagram. Yeah, they're okay, they're agreeing with you, and yeah, you get on okay with them. But to move them from one corner of that box to the far corner, the opposite corner of that box, can actually be very easy. It might be lunch, coffee or a beer that can actually shift them from one position to another, just asking some more questions of them. And because you've already got the good starting point with a good relationship and they're on side and agreeing with you, moving them and extending their reach and their potential to come and help you and do your work for you. Do your influencing work for you, why not? Enlist and delegate, even if it is upwards to your line manager. Okay, so look at the advocates. Another question that I quite often ask is, if the box below that, the critics box, is empty, I'm really, really worried. Right? I'm worried for a number of reasons, and one of them is a little bit light-hearted, but without most people who are ambitious and doing big things in an organisation, they are going to have opposition. They are going to have people who disagree with them. It is not feasible that they are, well, unless they're not trying very hard. And then they may not have opposition, but for anybody who's talented and ambitious and wants to make something of their career and do good for their organisation, there will be that opposition. There will be people who are criticising what they're trying to do. And the cheeky one is that they're probably not trying hard enough, or they're totally oblivious and naive and not really looking well enough at the organisation, and they seem to think that everybody else must agree it's a no-brainer. No, even if people's jobs are changing, that can cause some dissent and some disagreement. So that's the next place to go, is to the critics and actually seek to understand, because they will help you by toughening up your response, toughening up your argument, and will help you when you then go to try and influence other people in different positions on the map. And from there, you probably want to go up towards the players, all other things being equal, because the players, there's something wrong in the relationship. They're not telling you what's really going on. Those are the people who are in the meeting, they're saying yes, and then they're doing no. They're not delivering for you. Something's going wrong. There's something happening that they're not telling you. And if you can perhaps go and have that coffee, have the one-to-one, get to meet with them, you might be able to start to find out why. And it's probably because you don't understand their agenda well enough. You don't understand what pressures they may be under. Maybe they're having performance problems, maybe they're being, their line manager is putting them under pressure to do different things. You don't really know what's going on because the relationship isn't open enough. There isn't enough trust in that relationship. So it's another key place to go. A couple of other points that are probably worth bearing in mind is, firstly is, don't use this on your own, because yes, it is your challenge and what you're trying to do with the whole stakeholder influence process, but get other people involved. The more people that you can, you might want to be careful if you show this map to an enemy, okay? But it could still do just the job, because as we say, it's only a hypothesis where you place them. It may not be true, and most enemies aren't actually enemies once you start to build that relationship, and you can at least bring them over into the critic side. And to put that in front of people could actually cause quite a nice interrupt, where they say, whoa, hang on, okay, no, well, I'm sorry, I came across like that, and it can start to dramatically improve the relationship. Another thing that people quite often query is, should I put individuals on it or should I put groups on it? Because I've got this huge, great big challenge that I'm trying to move this agenda or this culture from here to there. There's lots of different groups involved, different occupations, different professions. If I put everybody, you know, and that's where I need to move. I need to move this particular grade, this particular job from there to there. Okay, that's okay. However, you struggle when it comes to implementation and to engage with a group as a whole. Unless you're good at public speaking and you've got the opportunity to get on stage in front of them, until you break it down into individuals, you're going to start to struggle with the practical action, which is fundamentally what we're trying to get here. So what I would recommend is, if you feel yourself inclined to put groups on there, do that, and then form a new influence process and influence goal about moving one group. So I want to move that group from there to there. And then you can start to explode that group and the constituent parts of that group into different stakeholders, so that you can start to find the practical action. And one of the examples I've got to share with you that really helped an organisation was, they were doing their groups and they had customers, suppliers and unions. And they had the union in the enemy's camp. Right, and all the directors were saying, okay, this is not very good. And they realised how fundamental it was to have a good relationship with the union to the pursuit of all of their organisational objectives. And so we cleared the board, and then we started to pull apart who is in the union, who are the shop stewards, who are the conveners, who are the people that make and influence that particular organisation, that particular group. And they started to spread the individuals about, and then they spotted somebody at a fairly low level that could have a huge influence on the relationship with the union as a whole, and they put together some practical actions to go and engage with that individual, and within 6 months they had an excellent working relationship with that union. So that's just a good example of how you can get some real big benefit. But make it a team effect. If you've got a project team, if you've got a group of people coming together to work on a particular goal, you can use the whole stakeholder influence process straight from focus right the way around to maintain. Put this map out on a table, divide the table up, and start to actually talk about it as a group and as a team. And I think that's the way you start to pool your knowledge, pool your expertise and your insights into the different stakeholders, learn a lot, have a lot of fun, and get everybody collaborating together as well. So you don't have to do this on your own. And I think probably the final part that I would say in terms of best practice in using this approach to influencing is, have lots of these maps. Because as senior individuals, you're going to have a lot of different things you need to influence. Make sure you have a different map for each iteration of the stakeholder influence process, because the names may be the same, but the positions may be different. So have a portfolio. Oh, and the final tip of best practice is, don't leave it lying around.